Rhodesia McMillian is a former autism teacher, nationally certified school psychologist, and PhD candidate in the educational leadership and policy analysis at the University of Missouri. And today she's going to share her ideas on the topic of adopting dignity and equity in public education. Here's Rhodesia McMillian.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me today. I want to talk to you about an experience that I had and how important dignity in our public school system is. Growing up in a community where you had individuals who were supporters of the civil rights movement and supporters of the Black Power movement, dignity of self and academic expectations and academic excellence were mandatory skills to possess. You know, I was 7 years old and I couldn't avoid the inevitable questions such as, how are your grades? Do you like your teacher? What was the last book you read? Have you learned about Marcus Garvey or Dorothy Height, right? Sounds familiar? Have you gone to college? Have you decided which college you're going to go to? And so, as you can imagine, as a 7-year-old, these questions seemed far removed. But what they were doing was keeping before me a goal that could be more easily attained by my generation than it was for them. What they were doing was not just cementing their expectation of me, but also shaping my expectation for myself. And it wouldn't be long before I would adapt to their expectation of academic excellence and begin to cement my own sense of self-dignity. And I know that contemporary ideology would say, well, Rhodesia, not everyone can go to college. And I agree. I agree that there are structures and systems that are currently in place that make higher education very, very difficult to obtain. The expectation of academic excellence bestowed upon me by my community did not and does not suggest that everyone should go to college, but that every Black child possessed the ability to go to college and the ability to complete college if they so choose. See, the expectation of academic success in my community goes far beyond extrinsic earnings, right? It settles intrinsically and it becomes the impetus or the springboard of life's aspirations and life's goals and self-dignity. It goes beyond this expectation of what we see, and it settles deep inside an individual. It carries the potential of saying that what you have is worth and value, and it carries a sense of appreciation, not of just self, but of others. It says that what you have inside of you is additive, not to us only, but to this community, to our nation, to our world, and we need you. And so what my community was doing, what they were saying is that I was an untapped resource. 10 years later, I had an opportunity to embark on my academic journey of success, right? I was 17 years old, a junior in high school, and I was selected to participate in a very competitive national program. I attended a summer-long program at Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, otherwise known as FAMU, and this program was federally funded, pun intended. And this program not only exposed me to rigorous coursework in mathematics and sciences, but it afforded me an opportunity to experience the socialization of college. Right, so I stayed in the dorms, I walked all across campus during the hot summers, I ate in the cafeteria, I had multiple professors, and my favorite, my RAs. RAs are resident assistants. These resident assistants were young college students who spent their summers being role models for for potential college students. And my RAs at this program were very young, vibrant, intelligent Black women who often wore these beautiful African and colorful head wraps, and they would wear it with their big earrings, right? And it was this fashion that I saw my RAs wear that inspired me. And it was this fashion that further cemented my dignity in being a woman and my dignity of race being a Black woman. I entered my senior year of high school fully affirmed. And I often wore the fashion that I saw over the summer. I walked the hallways of Savannah High School with my head wrap and my big earrings, and I felt fully affirmed. I was never questioned by my teachers or my school administrators, just simply affirmed. Until one day, while walking the hallways on my way to my economics class, I was in the hallway and my AP American history teacher, who was a white woman, saw me in the hallway and approached me. "Rhodesia," she says. She had a smile on her face. "Why are you wearing that head wrap?" And before I had a chance to respond, she says, "You must be baking my biscuits for lunch today." Dignity. The state of being worthy of honor or respect. It is a position that suggests that we interact with another on the premises that all people inherently possess worth that demands honor and respect, regardless of race, religion, ability, social and economic status, or sexual orientation. I know that there are people, just like my teacher, who may feel, "You know what, Rhodesia, she was just joking. You're taking this a little too seriously. She didn't mean to insult you. You should really cut your teacher some slack." But just like my teacher, what others fail to understand are that microaggressions, such as jokes, that reference the social inferiority of Black people, diminishes our students' ability to recognize his or her own dignity. When I had an opportunity to reflect upon what my teacher said to me, I began to search the literature, and I came across an author. His name is Dr. Dakota Irby, and he writes about these educational experiences of Black students, and he says that our in-school interactions and practices carry the potential to make our students lose sight of their inherent worth and their full human potential. Because the struggle by Black people to obtain freedom, justice, and dignity is as old as this nation, the struggle to be perceived as equal persists both within our social and our education systems. Black students are not taught by their parents that they're inferior. That is an erroneous notion constructed and pitted against Black students generation after generation after generation after generation. And as a socially constructed and racialized underclass, we often find ourselves, Black folk, in a race against fortified fronts of banking concepts, deficit thinking, poor planning, insults, and plain out denials. What my teacher did to me did not uproot the seeds of dignity my community planted within me. It did, however, cause me to bring into question my inherent worth and my full human potential. Never mind that I had gotten accepted into this national program. Or never mind that I was enrolled in her AP history, American history class. In her moment of transparency, she measured my inherent worth and full human potential at a level only good enough to bake her biscuits. As educators, we are conduits of social justice, right? And as conduits of social justice, we must seek ways and be intentional to adopt a framework of dignity. Students exposed to racial invective are victims of violence. And in recent years, we've centered our conversation of violence around a young girl in Carolina who's flipped over in her desk by a school resource officer, or a young man followed home, shot dead in the rain, found only to be carrying tea and Skittles, or a young man shot in broad daylight with his hands lifted above his head and his body laid out in summer's August for hours. We centered our conversation of violence around that, and rightfully so. A wise man said that violence is black children going to school for 12 years and only receiving 6 years worth of education. And I would add that violence are schools serving predominantly black children not receiving adequate funding to purchase resources is violent. Or schools where students can't even drink the water out of fear of being poisoned by lead is violence. Or at any given time, any given school year, 10, 20, sometimes 30 schools per school year are being closed in any major city across the United States for the sake of urban renewal. That's violence. And these are just a few examples of why we need to have a conversation of adopting a framework of dignity. Dignity work is a very taxing undertaking because it requires all of us to relinquish our socialized notions of one another. It requires us to be committed in every facet of our lives to dismantle racism and prejudices and biases at every turn. I hope that my words today will linger with you, and that in your own spaces you will begin to talk about how do we go about adopting a framework of dignity so that our students know and understand their inherent worth and their full human potential. Thank you.